Good morning. This is April from the mill. I'm joined today with John Vinson, our regional turf specialist, and Jamie Sears, our marketing graphic designer, and we are going to talk about turf diseases today. So, John, you noticed you've been noticing more fungal diseases in turf. You mentioned that in last week's weather video, and I think you mentioned red thread. So I know I don't know much about turf diseases and have some questions about what red thread is. How can you tell if you have it, and what do you do if you're starting to see fungal issues in your turf?
Yeah, right now the only turf disease that's really affecting any lawns is red thread. As we get into summer, there's 3 or 4 other ones which we'll cover also. But for right now, we will just talk about red thread. It's very common in the late spring, early summer, especially when we have cool, rainy weather. And one of the telltale signs is small spots, 3 to 10 inches, randomly displaced around your yard. If you catch the disease early, it actually has a red tint to it, but it quickly turns brown, irregular patches, and I've seen it everywhere. I've been at multiple golf courses, high-end sod farms, and homeowners, and they all have red thread. First sign is you need a little extra nitrogen. Most of these yards have, a little deficient on the nitrogen side, so a half pound of slow release nitrogen will fix that probably in 2 to 3 weeks. The Mills 22014 is a perfect application of that. We have plenty of that in stock. Another thing that red thread shows is your lawn needs a little more attention. Aeration and seeding in the fall will definitely help that in the future. A fungicide application is not necessary. Red thread does not affect the roots. It will outgrow itself as long as it gets the right amount of food, which is nitrogen. And usually red thread lawns are a little low in pH, so it's also a sign that you need a little extra lime application.
Is lime okay to apply now, or
Yeah,
if you're starting to see?
Yeah, yes, lime is okay to apply any time of the year when you need it. For lawns that are really deficient in lime, like we'll say in the pH of below 5.5, you want to do it probably every 3 to 4 months to get it where it needs to be for the fall, so you can do your fall seeding and aeration.
Okay. So what does red thread look like, and how can you tell whether it's red thread or a different fungal disease, or does it not even matter?
Red thread is only, like I said before, the big summer diseases. And if you're in June, early July, chances are it's red thread. And red thread will be on the smaller side. There'll be smaller patches, 3, 4 inches, irregularly shaped, not circles, just random. Looks like someone maybe came and spilled gasoline on your lawn. They're really random. They're small, no bigger than 8 or 10 inches tops. And there'll be no mycelium. All the other diseases will have a mycelium. It looks like cotton balls. Red thread will not. And when you first see it, it will look red, but it quickly turns brown. But the great thing is it will grow right back.
Is there anything you could do to prevent getting red thread?
Yes, you have to make sure your lawn is properly fertilized. Most of these lawns are hungry. So back when I was at golf courses, we would call it the poor man's disease. All the golf courses that didn't do the right amount of fertilization would get red thread because they were low budget golf courses and they wouldn't put the right amount of nitrogen down. So if you do your proper 6 or 7 steps that we say you should do for your lawn, you will not get red thread.
So as we move further into the summer, let's talk about some of the other diseases that turf can experience.
Sure. The biggest one that's coming up here shortly, and it always starts around July 4th, is brown patch. Brown patch is different from red thread. It's more circular, and the areas affected are way bigger. They're 6 inches to several feet in diameter, and they're almost always in circles. May not be a perfect circle, but they're very circular. And that starts happening when we get nighttime temperatures of 70 degrees or above. Those hot, humid days when it's 92 and a low of 74 is prime brown patch territory. And it also happens when there's a lot of moisture, especially in the ground, in the root system. And if it's untreated, brown patch is a slow acting disease. It's not going to devastate your yard in a week or two, but it will make it look really not good. The ways to combat that is use a slow release nitrogen for the summer. You want to put your application down before July 4th. No fast acting nitrogen, slow release like a 22014, 50% slow release is a great product to use. And the telltale sign with brown patch is if you go out in the morning, it'll have a smoke ring around the outer edge. That says the mycelium expands, and if you catch it early enough in the morning, you'll see cottony mycelium around that edge too. So that sets it apart from the red thread. And another probably a sign that if you're getting brown patch, you're low in potassium in your yard too. So we might have to do some applications of some 0050 or something like that.
If you follow your soil test recommendations and mid or late spring apply enough potassium, will that get you through a difficult summer with heat, humidity, and fungal pressure, or do you need to reapply potassium as well?
No, potassium is super important. Going into summer, when I was dealing with golf courses, we did many applications of 0020 or 0050 to get us through the summer. Potassium helps the plant harden, helps get through drought stress, and also helps it get through disease pressure. So a super important part of the turf program.
So these fungal diseases, if my yard is looking okay, but my neighbor's yard is showing signs of red thread or brown patch, is that something that can spread to my yard? If I've done a good job following my soil test recommendations and I've kept up with the liming and fertilizing, am I still going to be challenged if the neighborhood is having these fungal issues?
Not necessarily. These diseases are spread through mowing. So if you've done everything correctly in your yard and it looks good and your neighbor has some disease, he's probably low in fertility, doesn't aerate, who knows what he does. But if you're following the program, you're going to be way less susceptible to getting these diseases, unless he comes over and mows your yard, which, you don't want that to happen anyways.
Because it might spread on the mower blade?
Yeah, say if he's mowing his yard and he's blowing clippings out into your yard and it has mycelium on it, now it's in your yard.
So that's interesting. Using a fungicide, would that help prevent it if you're noticing your neighbors having issues with fungal diseases? Can you preventatively use fungicide so your lawn doesn't have those challenges?
Yes. At my lawn, I always do at least 3 fungicide applications. In fact, I just did my first one last night. I always do it right before July 4th and then end of July and then mid-August. And I've never seen any disease in my yard whatsoever. At the mill, we have several options. We have T-methyl and propiconazole. Both of those are good for pretty much every disease that will affect your lawn. We have it in granular form and sprayable form.
Is there anything else we can do then if we're starting to see this? So you're spraying fungicide to prevent.
Correct.
Can you also use it to treat if you're starting to see issues?
Yes. Yeah, it's equally effective. The rates are a little bit higher if you're treating, curative or preventatively. I do preventatively, so I'm on a program that I've been using for years. If you really don't have to do that. So if you start seeing it, it's instead of 1 ounce per thousand, it's 2, and it's curative rate.
Okay. And then I guess another question is, people who have pets, are there concerns with using fungicides if you have pets or children that are playing in the yard?
No, most of the fungicides now are really, really safe compared to where they were 20 years ago. The only thing I would say, if you're spraying, you never want your dog or child to go out there until the spray has dried, whether you're spraying even liquid fertilizer. Once the spray is dry, it's dry. There's no insecticides or any kind of stuff like that. So fungicides and liquid nitrogen applications are super safe. Just let it dry first and then go out as normal.
Okay, so John, are there any other diseases that aren't fungal issues that could be challenging turf coming into the summer?
Yes. Another one that a lot of people see is dollar spot. And what they look like is actually the old coins that were dollar coins. That's about what the size they are. And they're very circular. And again, it's kind of like red thread, where it's a sign that your lawn is super deficient on nutrients. So you need to do an application of nitrogen, which will easily eradicate that. Again, it's not going to take out your lawn, but it's showing you that you're deficient on feeding your lawn and you've got to get on a better program. But another disease that is kind of new to home lawns, but it's been around for the past 5 or 6 years, and I do believe it's going to get worse. And we've battled it at golf courses for the last 10 years. It's gotten actually really costly, is gray leaf spot. Gray leaf spot is a disease that can wipe out ryegrass or tall fescue very fast. And the thing to look out for with gray leaf spot is when it first starts, it looks like your lawn is in drought mode. It's turning, like it's has no water, but it's not the fact, because we probably just had a tropical storm. The gray leaf spot seems to come with when we get a hurricane or tropical storm in the summer, usually from mid-July till mid-August. You get 4, 5, 6 inches of rain, and gray leaf spot can pop up anywhere. The best thing to do for that is, again, follow the program and keep your lawn as healthy as it can be. But if you do get gray leaf spot, you're going to have to use fungicides. No other way around it.
So dollar spot and gray leaf spot are also fungal diseases, and they can spread the same as, red thread or brown patch. If your neighbor's got an issue and is blowing clippings toward you, you could get the spores and then start having issues as well.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, red thread and dollar spot are really like the poor man's disease. It doesn't spread rapidly. Brown patch can spread semi-rapidly, but gray leaf spot can spread like wildfire.
Okay. Are there other diseases too that could be a concern?
The only other one is for people that have Kentucky bluegrass lawns, which is summer patch. I really haven't encountered too many people that have Kentucky bluegrass around anymore. The best thing to do with that is, that's why golf courses used to have bluegrass fairways. There's not one golf course left in the United States that has bluegrass fairways, because summer patch wiped it out. So if you do have Kentucky bluegrass in your yard, best thing to do is get rid of it and aerate and seed and get tall fescue.
So golf courses they've switched over to all tall fescues now?
Not in the fairways. Tall fescues in the roughs, but on fairways, there was thousands of golf courses that had Kentucky bluegrass up until probably the 80s, early 90s. And then summer patch became a problem, and it would wipe out entire fairways in days. So over time, they all switched to either bentgrass, zoysia, or ryegrass. But there's no more Kentucky bluegrass on golf courses that I know of.
So that's interesting, because a lot of homeowners still really like Kentucky bluegrass, and there's some benefits to having that in blends with tall fescue, because of how it can spread and fill in the holes between, the tall fescue. But it is prone to having serious disease issues.
Correct. And they've come a long way from 20 years ago, too. The new Kentucky bluegrass seed, these seeds are, resistant to summer patch, or back 20 years ago, they didn't have that technology. So the new Kentucky bluegrass is perfectly fine in a mix, an 80-20 mix of tall fescue and Kentucky bluegrass. It's not a bad thing now. The seed technology, along with the tall fescue, they have seed varieties that are, resistant to brown patch, gray leaf spot resistant seed. So that's a very important thing when you get to the fall, when you're aerating and seeding. Use a good quality seed. You can get seed cheaper, but it's not going to be resistant to this, and you're just kind of wasting your money.
Oh, that's interesting. So how about rye grasses?
Oh
Do
yeah,
they tend to
they've come a long way in that. Every single seed that I ever used, I had ryegrass fairways at where I worked. Is gray leaf spot resistant, and that technology now has been a game changer. We were spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on fungicides a year. Now we got the technology with the new seed, and it made a world of difference. So I can't stress enough when you're going to get your seed this fall, get a high quality seed, and at the mill, that's all we carry.
So it sounds like we need to have another chat down the road, closer to seeding time, about the seeds that we have and their traits that make them more desirable for this area than
Correct.
the average seed. Sounds
Right.
good. All right. Well, I think we'll wrap this chat up. Thank you, John, for joining us and talking about some of the pressures and diseases that lawns face right now coming into the heat of the summer. And we'll follow up another time with some more turf tips.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you.